As a business-to-business marketer, your needs are unique. B2B buying cycles are long, and your customers face incredibly complex decisions. Isn't it time you had a marketing platform built specifically for you? LinkedIn ads empower marketers with solutions for you and your customers. LinkedIn ads allow you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. On LinkedIn, you'll have direct access to and build relationships with decision makers. Of the 875 million users on the network, 180 million are senior-level executives, 10 million are C-level executives. You will also be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B. And they work. Audiences exposed to brand messages on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to convert. LinkedIn ads also ranked number 1 for security, community, and ad experience as part of Business Insider's Digital Trust Study. Here at Sway Group, LinkedIn is a pivotal part of our day-to-day and is just absolutely vital for building relationships with clients and with our employees. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Freelancing in online marketing often looks ideal from the outside, but what's inside? Many time-consuming challenges. SEMrush offers over 50 tools and reports to assist you in every step of your routine, from competitive and keyword research to link building and technical SEO. SEMrush is your digital team member. Let's hit it off. Grab your free trial today and see measurable results. Go to bit.ly/SEMrushMPN. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/SEMrushMPN.
Welcome to The Art of Sway. This is a podcast that brings you inside the world of marketing through the lens of influence. I'm your host, Danielle Wiley. Each week, through candid conversations with industry insiders, we will uncover how influencer marketing is making an impact across all consumer buying habits and is changing the way we talk to each other. Let's dive in. Johanna B. Voss is a talent manager trusted by social media influencers who want clarity on how to build their brands, grow their businesses, earn their worth, and plan strategically for the future. On behalf of her clients, she's closed over $4 million of brand deals, partnerships, and speaking engagements. Her clients have partnered with brands such as Kroger, Walmart, AARP, Little Northern Bakehouse, H&R Block, and Aldi. Negotiation is something she thoroughly enjoys, be it for her clients, friends, or with strangers. Entering her 13th year of working for herself, she understands all about the necessary pivots entrepreneurs take along their journey. Prior to her work in the talent management space, Johanna worked on the presidential campaigns of Hillary Clinton and John Kerry for more than 7 years. Wow, this conversation was just such a delight. Johanna is a talent manager who we work with quite frequently here at Sway Group, and she joined me for a super honest conversation about the management space in general, how to deal with the bad players out there, and even gave some tips for maximizing your relationships with talent managers. Please enjoy. Well, hi, Johanna. It is so great to have you on. I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm jazzed to be here and just talk about all the things that we're going to talk about. I feel like there's such a thirst for it. So I'm excited I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So you are a talent manager, which is a job category that we have not yet spoken to on the podcast. So why don't we just get started? I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear, just your journey and how you came to be doing what you're doing today.
So, so I'm a talent manager. All my clients are women. They are all social media influencers and also moonlight as book authors and speakers and workshop presenters and TV media personalities. I do all the brand negotiations and also stay in the project management space. So like once something has happened, I kind of help see them through to the end. I have been working for myself since January of 2011, which feels like 27 lifetimes ago.
Yeah, that's the same year that we launched Sway Group. So
yeah. So you've like lived 12 lives basically since then.
Exactly.
Yes. And as I'm sure you can relate, like every good entrepreneur, I've had multiple pivots. I've had two key pivots when I launched my business, I was living in Barcelona, Spain. I had just come off of a year of backpacking around the world, which is like a whole nother podcast for another day, but like one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I was like, okay, money's been going out. I need money to come back in. Excuse me. I want to be like a contributing member of society. And so I became a nutrition coach. I run a lot of half marathons. I've always been super like healthy food, just like, I don't say food focused, but just like very healthy, always making healthy choices.
Yeah.
And so I became a nutrition coach for women who were doing half marathons and like mini tries, like shorter distance triathlons, supporting, helping them with their nutrition plan to support that kind of training. Loved it. Like absolutely loved it. I, on Saturdays in Barcelona, would go to my friend's house who had better Wi-Fi than I did, because my Wi-Fi would just like cut out all the time. And I would line up all my clients and I would just sit there and like have my coaching sessions on Skype, which is crazy because we didn't have like FaceTime and iPhones and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was how I launched my business. Did not intend to be an entrepreneur. It was more just like I was teaching English, which I hated. I needed something more sustainable and like for me. And did that for a few years. And then in some point in the duration of that, I had been part of some different like business coaching groups and marketing groups. It seemed like back then there wasn't a ton. I feel like now you can't walk 2 feet and like without tripping over like 27 kinds of coaches.
Yeah. So like more of like a mastermind group type of a thing?
Yeah, it was kind of like a mastermindy sort of like for entrepreneurs and business focused.
Yeah.
I feel like now they're a lot more fleshed out and like probably way more effective now, now because there's so
and
many
more expensive. I'm in a CEO advisory group and it's not cheap.
Not the cheapest thing.
It's invaluable, but
it is.
It's an investment.
And so anyhow, so in the midst of, I would create courses and I would launch things and I was just figuring it out on the fly. Like I do not have a marketing degree. It's just like basic common sense. And I don't know, I like being in like the business. I'm super organized and like I worked on campaigns for 8 years. So it's very time management and like project management and like working backwards from a plan and like, okay, this is their goal. We need X amount of people on election day to vote. So you just kind of like work backwards and you're constantly changing the plan. So I just basically took that skill set to my business and I would make courses and launch courses and create sales pages and all this sort of stuff. And people just started asking me like, oh, I see you did that. Like, can you help me with mine? And so I just started saying yes to all of these requests. It happened over, a couple of years. And it would go from like, hey, can you just take a look at something? And then it would be, hey, can I hire you for like a week or a day just to like talk me through all the stuff? And then it was like, hey, can you come behind the scenes with us for a month, just behind our business as we launch and like just help us launch? And so I had this epiphany one day when I was like, because I always said yes and I always got paid and I just did it for fun on the side. And it made me realize that most people who start their business don't want to do the business side of it. They just want to do the art or the service, the creation.
Right. Like you have this, I talk about this a lot. Like I had the idea for Sway and I love what we do, but then you start it and all of a sudden you need insurance and you have to be looking at a P&L and figuring out if you're running on a cash or accrual basis. And there's like all this super, super not sexy stuff that you never think about when you're dreaming of what your
people
business
are like, I just
is.
want to coach people, or I just want to, do nutrition plans. I don't want to like figure out the marketing and running the business. And I really like that. And I'm really good at it. And so long story longer, I had this moment where I was like, what if I tell people I do that? Like I lead with that as my business. Because I was doing both, but if you met me then, I only talked about nutrition. So I flipped my website. Literally nothing changed because I was actually making more money with this like operation stuff. And so then that became my first pivot. And I just leaned into doing operations and strategy, basically became like a outsourced COO on retainer for a number of different small companies and created the strategy session, which was like a 2-day dive into someone's business who didn't want to hire, like they weren't looking to hire someone, but they're just like, give me a plan. Like I've created a business. I've been successful. It's plateaued for whatever reason, life, that's just where you're at in business. And now someone's ready to grow. So I would come in and like pick apart the whole business. Okay, what do you do? How do you make money? Like, how does this work? What are your offerings that are most requested? Give the person a plan and then leave. And this woman, Lorraine Laddish, hired me to do this in Florida in 17. She's an influencer, and it was my first real introduction to the world of influencer stuff. I have been kind of doing like one of my operations clients. She did like a bunch of keynote stuff, so I would handle it for her, and I didn't even realize like that was kind of what talent manager stuff does. So anyhow, so Lorraine hired me, brought me down. We had a session. It was amazing. We just got along like a house on fire. Super fun. There were 2 partnerships that reached out when I was down there, and she was like, "Pretend like you're my manager." So I was like, "Okay," like literally, I'm like, "Okay, well, we just did your rate, so they want this, so it's this. They want this," and I just kind of did the math, and I'm like, "Oh, they want it next week for Mother's Day. Like that's a quick turn, so we should probably charge them more money because I think that's what people do." I asked for, let's just say it was like $3,500. She would have asked for like 800. So basically it was like having this heart attack of like, oh my God, you asked for this much money. And then they emailed back, no issue within like right away. And we're like, okay, that's fine. So then she had like another heart attack to be like, oh my God, they said yes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, this is so easy. Like, this is so fun. Just like doing this. So I left to come back to Colorado, and she asked me to be her manager. And truthfully, I didn't really know what it meant. Like, I just said yes on pure gut instinct because I was like, I love figuring stuff out. I love new stuff. This was fun. I really enjoyed hanging out with her. Just like we got along really well, and just she's Spanish, I speak Spanish. Like we have that connection. And I just said yes. And I was like, we'll figure this out. And so again, now I'm doing operations with like her on the side. She is very open about her life, and so would share about me to her community, which at that point was like mostly Facebook and like a little bit of Instagram, like photos. And most, she had, I think like 19,000 followers or something, and was basically like a 6-figure business. And at that point, there were mostly talent managers. Like the culture seemed to be around like, if you're a big YouTube star, like if you were just a person, like one person who just did stuff on Instagram and some blog content, people didn't really know that you could have a talent manager. Like it wasn't really as big of a thing as it is now. So word of mouth through her led me basically to like all my other clients. Like literally there's just like a trail of breadcrumbs, led me to Jeanette, led me to Yvette. Laura knows her. Ale knew her. It was like, I met Ale at a conference. I mean, it seemed random, but now I completely know it's just like breadcrumbs in the universe. Very clearly was like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, this is it. Like all those pivots and journey. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I love it. So yeah, so I was doing that on the side. Again, if you met me, like I never talked about it. And then one day I was like, this is so fun. I love these women. Like we're just having a great time. And so I thought, what if I just like flip? And I just actually quit doing all my operation stuff. And I just thought, let me lean in 100% to doing talent management. I love betting on myself. Like I can figure it out. And I haven't looked back, and it's been like the best thing ever for work.
And are you a one-woman show, or do you have people assisting you? It's just you.
I'm a one-woman show. I have a couple people that I hire for project work to like create me graphic designs for a quarter of content. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm a one-woman show. It's just me. I have no assistants. I don't desire to hire any other talent managers. I don't want to grow my agency so big that I need other staff to support.
And how many creators are you working with now?
I have 7 right now that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a lot. I mean, we actually started our business with a similar model where we had a bunch of people who were like started with 25 who were exclusive to us because of the needs of our clients. And similar to you, we kind of like stayed involved throughout the whole process to make sure that the content was where it needed to be. But because of the volume that we were doing, just because of the clients we had, it wasn't anything I could have ever done just by I'm also not very good with operational stuff. Like, so we had to have other people, and it wasn't sustainable. So we had to change our model, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I've managed tons of people before on campaigns, and I love it, but I very much value my independence and my freedom. And so it's enough to just like work with these women, and they keep me busy enough. And I mean, we're super integrated in our personal lives and professionally. So it's not just like we only talk about work. I mean, I talked with Shauna for 2 hours on like Tuesday, and Yvette for an hour. Yes, we had like work stuff, but we're just like, okay, catch me up on life. And you were in El Paso, and how's the family, and what's going on, and how's your aunt? Is she still sick? Is she in the hospital? Like, and then we'll pivot to like, okay, so that campaign, are you free? Can you do it? And then we'll just like go back to family stuff. So I didn't set out to build my business like that, but that's how it's become. And now it's just like a key part of who would be a good fit for us and how we operate. And it's like, I don't want to have to recreate and like, obviously can't teach that culture. Like it's all personality.
Yeah.
You know, I love it just being me.
That's awesome. So taking a step back, so your first client kind of came to you because she had this need. But for someone right now, like I've had a lot of just friends who have become influencers and they reach out and ask if they should hire a manager and if it makes sense. And what are at what point do you think it becomes a benefit? And then what are those benefits? I guess kind of like a two-pronged question.
Yeah. Sort of first early part of that is that we work off of commission. So we need our clients making money. That is just fact. Like it's just fact. Like I have a business, I have bills to pay. I need my clients. So I look for clients to be at 100,000 ish with brand partnerships. Because sometimes people will be like, oh, well, I have an ebook and I have an e-course and I have digital ads. I'm like, I don't touch any of that. So I just look at how much they've earned for their brand partnerships. One, because 20% of 100,000 is obviously $20,000. You take out taxes, you take out overhead. That doesn't actually leave you with that much money for me.
Right. Yeah. And especially for the time that you're putting, like I said, since you're taking them through the entire project, that's time consuming.
Yes. And most of my clients, and I think most influencers, anyone in this space, my clients will say no to anywhere from like 80 to 85% of the opportunities that come in. So most of my time, I'm technically not getting paid for because nobody earns on that. So, we may have a project that's like $50,000. I earn $10,000 of that. It may be the easiest project. Sometimes those bigger projects end up being like the easiest ones, and then the lower price ones are like the biggest pains in the butt.
Yep. Every time.
Yeah, every time, like without fail, right? And so I may earn my 10%. I don't know why I just air quotes. I may earn, I'll earn my 10%. It may be the easiest thing, but I'm also like, well, that just covered the 37 emails and calls I just took on your behalf that did not come to fruition. Rightfully so, but like did not come to fruition.
Yeah.
So that's my
So they need to be getting inbounds. Like there needs to already be brand interest in what they're doing. Okay.
Yes. And the other reason I have that requirement, which I think is actually more relevant now than it was when I first started this, is there's a lot of noise in this space. There are a lot of people who have one of these who are like, oh, it's easy. I just take some pictures and I post them on social media. And it is not. It's a business, like just as you would create a brick and mortar or launch a hairstyling business or a life coaching business, business coaching business. So there's a lot of noise of people who are possible talent. And for me, if you have earned 100,000, and I'm like flex, I'm not like, it's more just indicative that you've been in this space. It means you've done this before. It's not your first rodeo. I don't want to handhold you through how it works, to talk about timelines and briefs and client calls and the required hashtags and the content direction that you may not like and the approvals from the brand that you may not like, but why they're necessary. Like I need you to figure all that out before me. And also if you've done 100K or so in partnerships, you're on the brand's radar. You're in their databases. They have experience with you. They can refer you. They will come back to you. You have relationships that you can either lean on, or when you bring on a manager, part of that is what I do is like reach out to past partners just to say, hey, so excited to like partner with Tessa. Like I want to introduce myself. I'm her manager. I'm be the point of contact. Here's our updated media kit. Like it's a way to stay top of mind, and reach out and reconnect. So if you've done partnerships, you have those relationships, like people can vouch for you. You've got some street cred. So, brands hire talent because of the talent's client portfolio, not because of their manager. We're here just to help facilitate and like hopefully make it easier for everybody. So I'm not here to build your brand. That's on you, the talent. So by doing, having done 6 figures in partnerships, it's like you figured out who you are, who you serve, how you serve. Like, what's your process? What's your system? Like, do you have your team members? That's not for me to figure out. Like, that's not my zone of genius at all. So those are like the 2 reasons. And like I said, I think that second one is a lot more relevant now because there's so many more people that want to be, brand partners.
And I mean, your clients have to believe and see the proof that, I mean, presumably because you're taking a commission, you're making them more like you're making them that much more money plus. Like there's some kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's probably two benefits, right? Like financially, presumably you're making them more so that they're kind of covering the cost of hiring you on.
Yep.
And then,
Well, if I can jump in,
yeah.
because this is, I realize the second part of your question is that is part of the benefit of having a manager, is just to hand it over to somebody else.
Right. That was the other one. Like
Yeah.
helping with a lot, like
Yes.
that back and forth is
Yes.
tremendously time
Yes.
consuming.
Yes, it is. And to the point of what we were talking about earlier, nobody likes to do it except for like me and us talent managers.
Well, it's very hard to negotiate on behalf of yourself. Like
Yes.
I talk about this, you know, like when I'm with my husband buying an appliance or whatever, and like he has no problem negotiating on behalf of himself. I don't know if it's a gender
No, I
thing
totally
or
get
what,
you. Yeah.
but I want to like hide in the fetal position, like behind the nearest refrigerator. Like I cannot handle the stress of negotiating for something that impacts me personally,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no problem asking for more money for someone else.
100%. Yeah. And that's even if, okay, let's just say for easy math, right? A talent was going to be paid $5,000. And even if that's what they would have asked for, and that's what I asked for, and that's where we met, and then I earn my $1,000 off of it, so technically their take home is $4,000. There's a really good chance that the influencer wouldn't have stuck it out to even see it through to make the project happen, because I know my clients, like they respond to me, but there are emails that get lost in there. I have to message them and be like, hey, somebody messaged you, like, look for this title. I need you to forward it to me. And they'll be like, oh yeah, that was like 5 days ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
I get it. Like they have lives, and so do I, but this is my full-time work. So their full-time work is content creation or recipe testing, you know, whatever it may be, or traveling. Like I have a creator who's a travel creator. I travel for fun, and I'm like, I do not know how you get the content, make the content, have a full itinerary planned at the end of the day. You come back, organize your photos, look at the brief. I'm like, I'm cross-eyed after like 4 p.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's amazing to me how hard they all work. And so having like all my clients are always just like so grateful. I'm like, hey, do you want me to like catch you up, update? They're like, nope, literally just don't even tell me about it until
make it
it's
happen.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's like the biggest benefit.
Kind of related to the fact that you're earning your commission.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a few weeks ago with Jason Falls,
Mm-hmm.
who is, I keep calling him like an OG in the influencer space. But we were chatting about managers and as I'm sure I'm not like breaking this to you for the first time, I don't think it's any surprise that sometimes managers and agents kind of get a bad rep, and the reputation is not always super positive. And one of the things that he said to me, I don't want to misquote him, so I'm going to read it. What I would say to managers and creators is that the day that the creator hires a manager does not multiply their audience by 30% or their efficiency by 30%. So it better damn sure not multiply their price by 30%. And I think that's sometimes one of the things, I mean, not always, certainly. And I am a huge proponent of women getting paid what they're worth, and have gone on the record multiple times saying that women do not charge enough. Typically, I have told women to think about how much you want and then double it, that your stomach should hurt when you're asking for money. So just setting the stage that I want women to get all the money that they deserve, and typically it's more than they realize. But I think being where I sit, which is kind of weird, where I have a foot in the creator side and then also on the agency side, we do sometimes see that situation where someone suddenly gets management and then their price balloons. And it's not always kind of commensurate with what they should be making. So assuming that you're not someone who's doing that, but like, what's your advice for agencies dealing with that?
Yeah.
Like, you've worked with someone, you know what kind of output they do, you know the quality of it, you know the performance of it. You know, we work with multiple creators, we can compare them to others and see how they're helping us meet our KPIs. And then suddenly that price multiplies and we're not necessarily seeing the whys behind that. Yeah. I just would love to hear your thoughts on that, and maybe get some advice on how to handle it.
I have thoughts. Yes. I know Jason very well. Like I said, we were legit emailing this morning about something else.
Too
And
funny.
I meant to tell him I was.
And you were like, you were
I
quoted
know.
in the questions I was.
I was like, your legacy lives on. I've done his podcast. Yeah. So I had to have a chuckle because I'm like, that's such a Jason quote. I just have to say that. Like he and I have talked about this many times. And
Yeah.
I get it. Like I totally get it. You know, there's a lot of new creators in the space. There's a lot of new people that are like, oh gosh, I post on social media and like I'm a social media manager and like every once in a while I work with talent. Like I could be a talent manager. So I think like there's been such an influx of people that are in the talent manager space that don't fully understand. So like perhaps a situation like that of like, oh, I'm just going to increase your rates.
Yeah, we see it very often. We see like, oh, this is my new talent manager, and it's their next door neighbor or their husband or right. It's someone
like their
who's
cousin or something.
yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I see a lot of that too because then I see in this influencer marketing group that I'm a part of questions that those people ask, and I'm like, dear God, like you're representing someone and like you don't know these basic things. Like you were doing it, like they're giving their trust to you. Like it takes all my effort not to like reach through the computer and be like, don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
Or yes, I totally get it. So I will say, for transparency's sake, I had one client who I don't remember the exact math, but her rates absolutely went up. She was insanely undercharging.
Yeah.
Like insane.
And that's totally like I think that I know that happens. And
yes.
like I'm doing some research now on how women negotiate compared to men and how we perceive our value and like, but like putting aside the ones where they clearly have been underselling themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like what you're saying, all my clients are women. Majority of my clients traditionally are women of color. So I'm also fighting for every dollar and often deal with, oh, this is Hispanic market budget, not general market budget. And I'm like, memo, Latinos and Hispanics are also general market. Like there is no difference. Or like, oh, this is their budget for.
I think, well, and they're also like, there's not as many of them. And so they actually should get more.
Oh yeah. On the talent side.
Like that's the thing that makes me crazy, right? Like,
you are preaching the choir.
you need Latina, you need a Black woman for this. Like you need someone of color. Well, then you probably should be paying more.
At least, yes.
If you have a specific need, right?
Yes. I mean, that
like
is
supply and demand. That's like economics.
That is a whole nother podcast. I will say, Danielle, for another day on like my experience of what talent manager experience about how agencies look for diversity, their like emails to us. I mean, it is mortifying. But like I said, another podcast for another day. So your question about raising rates, a couple things. One, have a legit talent manager. Don't just have your neighbor who's home and wants to help you, like who has no clues of what's going on. So have a real talent manager. One, myself and the talent managers that I know, we're committed to the success of the project. Like I only win when my client wins, and my client wins when like the agency client wins. So like we're all invested and tied to each other's successes. And I want them to all have a good relationship and experience because this is a long game. You know, I want them to come back for that client or me to my roster, which I'm very grateful. I have people who are like, hey, we loved working with you. We're looking for this person, like anyone in your roster that fits, or do you have a recommendation? Because you have great recommendations. Like that to me is the larger thing. And then the campaign is just sort of like the short-term thing that's happening. So every project that comes in, I bring to my clients and I'm like, hey, this is what's happening. Best and final offer. Here's where we've got. Here's the experience. Here's a statement of work. So at the end of the day, like I always bring it back to my clients and I'm like, listen, it may be under your rate, but it's a good agency. I've worked with this person 100,000 times before. They pay on time. They're great. It fits your portfolio, whatever. So I think obviously right communication is the key to everything, but for managers to have that communication so that the agencies and brands are not experiencing that like whiplash of like, wait, what? Your rates are how much more, but your audience hasn't grown to compensate appropriately for that. Or like story views are down, like stuff that's completely out of, you know, talent's control because Instagram does whatever Instagram wants to do to help just sort of navigate that space. And when I take on new talent and I am reaching out to past partners and or like someone who's emailed, let's say they've worked together before I was on the team, I'm up front. I'm like, listen, hey, I just want to let you know, like, the rates have changed since you last worked on a project because of it's been 5 years. They now have 500,000 more followers. Like, they now, the website has 1 million views and it had 250, 3 years ago, like whatever the case may be. I am very upfront about being like, listen, I may or may not know what you did on the project 2 years ago or even 2 months ago. Here's where we're at, but we love the relationship. We want to make this work. Is there a way we can meet in the middle? Happy to like put these, new rates aside for 3 months. I'd much rather have the project done, the client have the campaign, the agency have a great opportunity, and like just to have it happen. So
Yeah. I love that you go back to the creators if it's not quite what they wanted, because I think I know when I complain about this, it sounds a little bit self-serving and like, I don't want to pay that money. But truly, truly, like a big piece of my concern is we often see creators get priced out of programs and we know that they could use it and they're missing an opportunity that would be great. And we suddenly don't have access to them and can't have that conversation. And I mean, even as a company, right? Like we've taken programs for less than we would typically charge because we see that there's an opportunity there to grow the business. And
yeah, it's like a longer term strategy.
like
Totally.
it's not always black and white, cut and dry.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I hear those stories all the time about from the agency side, like, oh, we really want to work with this talent. We keep reaching out to the manager. The manager's like blocking us, says, no, no, no. We're pretty sure the manager hasn't taken the project to the talent because, maybe that person, they follow them personally. So maybe they chat back and forth on DMs and they're kind of like, oh, I actually know that the talent doesn't know about the project, but I'm being blocked by the manager. Honestly, I would say go around the manager. If you're running into that and you're like, hey, listen, this is gonna be everything you just said, a great project, great opportunity. We'd love to work with you. Okay, maybe we can't meet you at your higher rates, but like we could give you another 2K or whatever. I don't know. I say go around the talent because I've heard those stories and the talent's like, oh my God, yes, I'd love to do this. Like, talk to my manager. And you're like, I have been. I'm running into a roadblock. And then the talent's like pissed that the manager is blocked for whatever reason.
That was going to be my next question, is just advice that you have on dealing with those difficult managers. So from your perspective, it is totally kosher to go around if there was some kind of prior relationship.
I think
direct relationship there.
Yeah, I mean, you got nothing to lose. Like, okay, pissed off the manager, great. We already don't like them, right? So you already don't want to work with them. So yeah, and I think a lot of people again like take on managers that don't, or they just hand it off, and maybe they don't talk to their manager a ton, or they're just like super trusting. And the talent isn't, I'm texting and talking to agency people all the time, just like on the side, separate from projects, just about what they're hearing. Hey, this is what's coming up and this is what we're noticing. So like I may have a campaign opportunity come in at a different price or, a different rate that's like below rate, but I just generally know there's conversation in the industry about X, Y, and Z. So it's like I have that context that the talent may not have. But yeah, I mean, especially if you have a past relationship, like I say reach out to the talent directly. Can't hurt, right?
Yeah.
And could help them see like maybe they haven't brought on the best team member for their business. You could do them a service.
I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I'd love to just close with any other tips that you have for brands and agencies who are working with managers. Like how can marketers best take advantage of that relationship and use it for like maximum benefit for their brand?
Yeah. I would say that we are here as a resource. Like we are here, right? Managers that are good at their job and know what they're doing, have their head screwed on straight. We're here to help facilitate. I don't see myself, like my main priority is to respond to emails and any sort of messages inquiring about talent and then getting to a yes or a no. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste talent's time. And so those are my priorities. Whatever I can do to help facilitate that. And again, I know not all managers are like this. I know there's always a couple that give us a bad rap, a couple bad apples. But there's a lot of us that are really good, that are doing good work, that are in it for all the right reasons and like, are helping educate talent as we learn things from agencies and we get feedback that maybe you couldn't say directly to talent and vice versa. So like we're really here as a resource and to help to continue to educate this industry, because there's still a lot of education that has to happen, and to, lift up and continue to bring out the best in like these opportunities, and pivoting as we have to with all the change and stuff that's happening, just like we're all kind of in this working through it together. So use us as a resource. Like, a lot of us have rosters with more than that one person. So getting to know us, take 10 minutes just to call me and ask me about my roster. Right. And like, what's my focus? Great. I'm all women. I just signed a white woman, actually. But before that, I was all, so my diversity is what one of my clients just told me. So, majority of my clients are women of color, mostly Latinas. And so I'm often tagged when people are like, oh my gosh, we're looking for a Latina creator. I'm often tagged. And if it's not my client, I have a long list. Like, every other talent that I recommend is a person of color. So get to know us, and like just how we work, building relationships with us, is beneficial to everyone. And like, because I get it, right? Like, I'm the messenger for my talent. My agency person is the messenger for the client. Like, I get it. We're both kind of in this like middle link on the chain.
Yeah.
And so, even to come to me and to say, hey, can we just have an offline conversation about this? Like, I've had people say that to me before. I'm going to send you this offer. I know it's below your rate. I have to send it because the client like has, we want it done a certain way, but just we'll have a sideline conversation that I can then relate to my talent. I'll be like, and they'll say, hey, I want you to message back this, because I need you to say that, not me, the agency person. Or just, hey, the client's moved up the deadline, calling me and saying, is there any way you can have this happen sooner? Just realizing we're all trying to get across the finish line, and to remember that we're all humans. I'm human. My clients are human. We're all caring for families and parents and kids. And like, we all have things going on. We're trying to keep our sanity and like stay healthy and sane and drink enough water and get enough sleep and all that sort of stuff. So just realizing that we're here as a resource, and building relationships with us can, I think, be like the agency people that I have the best relationships with. Like, call me, text me, like we'll just chat on the fly. It's super quick. And it's really helpful because it's like, we don't have to be like, hi, my name's Johanna. It's like, we can just get there. And like I said, get to the yes or no quicker.
Awesome. This was so great. I'm so glad we connected. I loved chatting with you.
Me too.
Before we go, tell people where they can find you online if they want to learn more.
Yes. So I'm always hanging out in two spots. My website, johannaboss.com, JOHANNA, V as in vegetable, OSS. And then same thing on Instagram. I'm always hanging out on Instagram. It's all brand negotiations, like collabing with brands, like all of my content just swirls in that space. So I try to do a lot of education and insight for people that are in the industry. So hopefully people find it helpful.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. It was so great.
I appreciate it, Danielle. Thanks for having me.
Follow her on Instagram at Johanna Voss. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please check back next Monday for a new episode featuring marketing conversations through the lens of influence. I am your host, Danielle Wiley, and this is The Art of Sway.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business too? Caroline K hosts a great podcast called Snippets of Genius. Caroline, tell us what these folks will get out of listening.
Snippets of Genius is a lighthearted business podcast with some brilliant insights into how you can attract and cultivate success. In each episode, I have an inspiring conversation with genius guests from the worlds of business development, marketing, design, and wellness. Each of them share their ballsy, daring moves to burst business opportunities wide open. Every episode is designed to give you as much value as possible so you can decide, define, and develop anything you want in your career or business.
Hard to turn that down. Where can people subscribe?
They can come on over to my website, which is www.carolinek.co/podcast, or find the show at marketingpodcast.net, or search for Snippets of Genius wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.